Love to the kids. Tell them I'll have that meeting with them in the new year. So, tell me how what you've been feeling into, what you're sensing. How does this feel different than other New Year's? What are you sensing? Oh, hello, Stockholm, Sweden. I'd love to go there and visit. Looks beautiful. Because we're all from different countries, right? We're all in different places. And each place you feel a specific collective energy. And the lunar calendar, commonly known as the Chinese New Year, is in January this year, third week. You know, sometimes it falls in February, depending on the moon, the new moon. But this year it is January. And, you know, this is the time of year that, you know, we've had other New Years in other cultures that have come earlier in the year. You've shared it with your 3 children and husband. I love that. I love when people share it with their kids, because, you know, I've spent the last 2 years working with mothers. I'm a beta tester, if that makes sense. You know, for 20 years I've been doing this work, and not in theory, but in practicality, with people going through real stuff. And when you do that, you kind of polish your gifts, or your wisdom, or your knowing. And in that polishing, I think it has kind of juxtaposed with what's happening in the consciousness in the times that I've, you know, been doing this, seeing how many people, especially these last 3 years, who have done a lot of internal inventory, and knowing, I mean, a lot of it is common sense, right? We know that when we are stressed, and don't get me wrong, stress can sometimes be really, really good for us. So, and people are like, what? You know, sometimes people work under pressure really well. Remember when you were at school and a test was coming up and you crammed, or you got to it? Sometimes a little bit of pressure and a little bit of stress on ourselves is actually quite a good thing, because you know, human beings can be quite lazy, and you know, we'll not get into all the other things that we say to it really is avoidance, and we make a lot of excuses, and which are propping up other narratives. So when we really have pressure and stress on us, and sometimes it can really make us feel motivated, and it can make us get really laser focused. And I think that's what these last maybe 3 years have given us. And I think this, I'm not going to spoil the newsletter, because you're not going to make me do that. I've been working too hard on it all day. Well, all week. But I think when you look at the last 3 years, there has been a certain reprioritizing that has occurred, that would not have occurred if we hadn't been put in this pressure cooker, right? So burnout, people being burned out in their jobs. Usually in the 90s when I worked, you know, in business, people just burn out, and they were left in the heap, right? If you didn't get it, you didn't get it, and you just burn out. And I mean that connection to self. And I think these last 3 years has made people reprioritize of being like, hey, I want to be a mother. I don't want to work. I want to start a business from home. Or I don't want to be going to a job. I really love it being here with my kids. You know, also people who are married or in relationships, you know, you guys went through, to me, I say to people and they laugh, right? Like, it's like doggy years, right? 1 year was 7 years. Like 1 year in a relationship during this pandemic was like a multiplication of 7 years with someone, because it was things that you went through, lived with 24/7, homeschooling if you had kids, that really intensified your relationship. It's like you were put on the boiler, so it kind of burnt through some things. And that's not to say people that, you know, did these 2 years and realized that they were with a person that they just realized it wasn't going to work. You know, it wasn't really just because of the pandemic. It was because the intensity of living with someone and the shutdowns and the lockdowns and the stresses and other things that were involved, you know, it really kind of put a pressure cooker on things. But also, I think people really started to excavate. You know, I've been working for many decades with people who, you know, usually when I worked with them in 2005, it was because they had a diagnosis. And they knew what they needed to get rid of. They were very clear. I didn't tell them. They would come and be like, this is what I need to collapse. This is what's bearing down on me. I can't afford it. I need to get through this. Then there was the people, because I'm here in Hollywood, that were creative, that were like, if I don't get rid of my little narrative from where I live and where I come from and the culture I was brought up in, because I can see myself sabotaging, I can see myself thinking I don't belong, you know, or who do I think I am, universal, then I'm not going to live the life that I want to live. So people came to me with those two things, and then about 2012 there was a shift, and people started to realize about their thoughts and about their energy and about their vibrations and about, you know, being in kind of, and then it started to kind of really kind of pick up steam. And then later on, when Heal came, and that was in 2017, so it's been a while now, which was very timely. 2017 was the Me Too movement. People started to really, I was surprised at how many people were new to this thinking that, you know, constant, rabid, negative thoughts were going to put you down the rabbit hole. So I think on top of that, having a global, you know, shutdown, whatever you want to call it, I do think that we are in a really big transition, because we've reprioritized what is important to us, and that might be kind of similar to what you were on. Maybe you were already on this path, but it intensified the focus, it intensified the clarity, it intensified everything. But I think even now, it's going to be a year where it's going to be challenging. But I think you already know that. Right? You can already sense it. You can already sense this, you know, back in the 90s, there used to be this thing, and they made a lot of films about it, and it was anger management. Oh, he needs to go to anger management. And it was a really famous film. I think it was Robert De Niro was in it, and he had to go for anger management. Well, what's coming is hatred management. You know, we kind of went through this phase of, are you a hater? You know, haters gonna hate. Taylor Swift. And it was a kind of soft, gentle, yeah, don't do that. But now we're really kind of going to have to face that there is, you know, a hate management needed, just like there was anger management in the 90s. And you are going to have to discern and decide. You know, I had a teenager the other day, she was 15, and they're such a blessing to work with, you know, teenagers and kids, because they're just so frank. And I'm so frank with them, and they're like, that makes sense. And she said that she was called a floater. Well, take that in. That people, this little girl had had cancer. No, she had had a tumour when she was 9. And so she had to go through certain things that made her really very emotionally mature, and things got really real for her of, you know, death. And in that realness, she had been being bullied. There was bullies, you know, that in her school. Oh, I'll answer that question in a minute, Trevor. And because it's layered. Layered. And this little girl was called a floater. And she said, well, people at school don't like me sometimes that much because they're like, you know what I really hate? There it is, Trevor, right? And they say it so casually, right? It's so casual. You know, I really hate, we really hate floaters. And then they kind of look at her like, and I said, oh, is that what they call you, a floater? I said, do you know what the word discern means? She said, no, I've never heard of that word. She's 50, just turned. So I said, let's look up the word discernment so that you have that in your vernacular. And we looked up, she went, I do like this word. I said, yes. I says, what you are doing is you're discerning which group that you want to hang out with. And sometimes you like some of them, but you don't like all of them. You can see that one's the leader in one group and they all kind of follow. So you are discerning, right? You are discerning. And they look at that and they say, you know what we hate? We hate floaters. You're a floater. And to them, she is a floater because she is not committing to them, which then gives the group a consciousness, right? There's a consciousness in the group now. Why do you not want to join us? I hate that you are observing me and observing my group. And you are not joining us. So I'm going to brand and label you a floater, because that allows us to not do any discern why maybe this girl doesn't want to join our group. Right? And this is the thing why the phone, I was going to say telephone, the phone, the iPhone, right? The I, right? And the third eye was always known as the president, right? And these were the subjects. Looking at the subject. But this had to discern what it was really looking at, because people can do a really good impersonation. It's called marketing. People can do a really good impersonation of being nice, of being kind, of being spiritual. And we have to discern. So how do we discern? It's a feeling. It's a, you know, it's a calling. You know, we feel the calling to that person, or we feel the calling, and it's, sometimes we don't want to, because we know it's going to be a lot of work, right? We're like, oh God, I know it's that I need to do, but I don't want to do it. It's going to be a lot of work. How can I avoid it? Right? But you have to catch that. So why is it so easy? You know, why does hate come so easily? I think it is a conditioning. It is also a survival technique where, you know, let's be honest, you know, the last 100 years, detectives of really kind of saying, you know, someone got murdered, right? People went missing, you know, people got away with murder, right? And people were very cautious about acting nice, fitting in, belonging. So people really didn't step out of going against authority, because it meant that you would either be hung, drawn and quartered, tortured, or have your land taken away, or, you know, everybody was jostling for position and favour. And hating people, you know, was something you didn't really kind of want to court. And I think hate is really, the basis of it is jealousy. And it's not jealousy at sometimes the person, it's the person's expression, the person's freedom, the person's wit, the person's ease, the person's confidence, the person's or the group's ease and confidence, or they get more attention. And that sometimes comes from this real kind of bitterness that they didn't take a chance on themselves. And I always, you know, when I look at the word hate, it's usually bitter. There's a bitterness in the person, or something that hasn't happened for them that has happened for someone else. And so what do? You know, you can either live your life as many of your ancestors did, under the radar, or not rocking the boat, or not, you know, putting yourself out there. But I think you know, it's time for the expression of the individual. It's really quite exciting, because it's the first time in our evolution, really, that it doesn't matter your class, it doesn't matter your status, it doesn't matter, you know, anything, that everybody has the ability, everybody can voice something, everybody, like, and not always a good thing, but because everybody's got a microphone, but it is also new. Because back in the 90s, it was people who were punks and goths, and you know, it was the alternative scene. That's what it was called, the alternative scene. Alternative clubs, where people were just being, you know, into music that was the music of the day, and just everybody having their own figuring out. And I think that's the vibe of 2023, is really negotiation. You're going to have to negotiate what is pulling us in here to what you need to accomplish, or want to accomplish, or want to put into the world, or what you want to create, what you want to innovate, what you want to make, what you want to and you know, for me, like, intention won't really come into my year until the lunar calendar, where the collective consciousness is all on the same page. But between now and then, can look at growth. To me, I think that's more tangible of what is it that you want to grow this year. And that might be your patience, right? That might even be your bank account. That might be your pets. You might want to get another pet. You might want to grow your family. You might want to grow your intelligence. You might want to grow your consciousness. You might want to grow your awareness. You might want to grow your kindness. You might want to grow your gratitude. But growth is to me, the theme for the year. And because we will be going through a collective growth, and you have to look at where you need to personally grow, and everybody really knows where their personal growth is, rather than trying to figure out their intentions. So I think growth is a good thing. You might want to grow your yoga practice. You might want to grow your meditation practice. You might want to grow your energetic wisdom and your energetic connection practice. So growth is the thing. So does anybody have anything to ask, or anything they want to hop on and say? No? I'm sure there must be something that you want to hop on and say, right? No? Who's that? Who's that? I'm only seeing a wall, Annie. Oh, there you are.
It was in the kids' room, so I popped out.
Oh, good. Yes, it feels very much like that this year. Like we're all whispering. Like it's let's just whisper our way into 2023.
You know this.
Do you feel it's felt like that in LA? It's raining like crazy. It's rained all day, and there's just this kind of whispering silence, you know. There's this yeah, maybe I'll not go out tonight, maybe I'll just stay in and write my journal or meditate, or maybe I'll just, you know, there's just something that is preparing.
Yeah, that's how our night went. We just sort of everybody crashed early. Nobody tried to stay awake late tonight. Like one by one, they all went to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, for me, I just wanted to come on here and say hi to everybody and just kind of be, you know, my things are going to be meeting my friend for lunch, brunch tomorrow, meeting my friend for dinner and a hike, you know, like doing things gradually in the week, even like my intention setting and my growth. I'll do the newsletter, finish that in the morning, just kind of not like, oh my God, I need to have 3 intentions for tonight to, you know, put into my day tomorrow, and then what am I going to do? You know, it's too super. It's the superficiality. We don't need, right? It's that. It's just this is, you know, we've had 36 months of this, and I think we just need to ease ourselves in. It's all good. Just take our time. Take your time asking the universe, what's the next thing for yourself? Asking for a sign, gently. Gently. And then, you know, going in that direction. You know, slow and steady wins the race. People try and jump in, getting their things done, getting stuff done, and then they burn out. Or then they lose interest, or then they kind of, whatever. Slow and steady.
Yeah, that's how I've been swimming. It's very slow and very steady.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's there's going to be enough energy in 2023 that is, you know, is going to be that you want to have your rudder in the water and you just want to be like, yeah, we anticipated this. I've got my tools, or I know where I can get my tools, or, you know, I know what I need to do.
Yeah, everything that we have, that I've been like, whenever I've been sitting my Reiki, the code word has really been gently, easily. Let it just come gently and very easily.
Yeah, not to try and manufacture or push, because sometimes there's a desperate energy in that, you know, there's a desperation to prove something. And to me, it's like when people are trying to be authentic. And I'm like, that's great. But as I've always said, and you know this, but I'll say it for people that don't know what my thoughts on this is, authenticity is a byproduct of being.
Yeah.
It's a glow, it's an essence, it's a vapor, it's an essence of the person that you're like, oh, that person's like, oh, really real, they're really authentic. It's not, I'm trying to pitch myself as being authentic. We all know what that looks like. I mean, we've watched it for years, but it's very entertaining. It's very entertaining, and it's very, but also impulse control is going to be really important this year. And that's when equanimity comes in, because we'll be doing a lot of pause. You know, not pause as in let's take a pause. But that sacred pause that stops you and says, you need to check in. You need to zip it. That knowing that's like, oh yeah, that gave me pause.
That's the last thing we read today. It was, I think it was the 3rd chapter of the Pause and Joy We book. And there was like a section where you have like a song. It was like, pause before you get angry, oh, pause. And so I kind of sang that out loud to the kids. They were like, Mommy, is this Patty singing? I'm like, yes. Reminding you to just pause before you get
Yes.
to that place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Because the lack of impulse control is, I mean, the other word for it spiritually, I think, is in the ancient Hebrew of fools rush in where angels fear to tread.
Mm.
Oh. Right? And even for me, I know what that means for me when people want me to go there with them, but they don't want me to go there with them. Don't you dare. Right? I did that in my 30s. No, thank you. No, thank you. I'm like, I think you need to go to therapy. I think you need a therapist. And that's also what's going to be coming up, is all of these things that people are going through. Is you sometimes have to look at, maybe you don't need it analyzed and understood in more therapy. Maybe you need to look at, you're having a spiritual crisis. This is a spiritual crisis of not being true to yourself. And what are the offshoots of not being true to yourself? Well, let me tell you, the list is long. And it's usually a diagnosis. But when you decide, many people do, oh, I need to clean this. I need to start doing my emotional inventory. I need to start looking at stuff. Or you're just constantly on this treadmill of, I have this, I have that, I am this, I am that. Unshiftable. And it's a trap. Also an existential crisis, which can be looked at as a breakdown. When my father took depression and he went voluntarily into treatment, I was like, Daddy, let's not call it, you're not having a breakdown. I said, you're having a breakthrough. Because you couldn't live that old character anymore. You couldn't do that. It was a lie. It's okay. He was like, okay. Okay. I like that word. I'll take it. Because everybody was telling him he was having a breakdown. I was like, you're not having a breakdown. You're having a breakthrough. Woo-hoo. I says, it just looks bad. Because breakthroughs look bad. And if you've looked at your life and you've looked at moments where you felt trapped in jobs and relationships, and the crisis, the spiritual crisis of the soul that's telling you to get out of something that's not good for you, it can create many layers. And it's being able to kind of be like, oh, that's what this is. That's okay. Whereas the rest, you can just be drowning in labels. What are the 4 things that I shouldn't do today? What's the 5 things? The 7 steps to this, the 11 this and this. It's like, that causes anxiety. Rather than tuning in here of like, I don't even know why I don't like that person. I just know it feels weird, or it feels off, or it feels misaligned. And you know what? I'm going to sit with that gently. And I'm going to be like, what is this? Is it me? Am I being, weird? Am am I bringing my stuff to the party, or is this person trying to manipulate me, or is this person trying to collaborate with me that feels icky? You know, that's discernment. That's all that is. You're discerning negotiation of life. But when you have a compass that's tuned into yourself, it's much easier. But you're not going to get a VIP pass to not discern and not negotiate with life. But what you can do is increase your knowing. And that is, when you start doing that, when you start trusting it, wow, look at you. I mean, look at the things that you've polished and the knowing that has navigated your life into areas that is magical, that people look at you with 4 kids and at ease, you know, enjoying your family and like living and bringing them into the practice, that they actually helped me write the books with Paloma. You know, like kids have written these books.
I think about like when,
which is
every winter, I remember as a kid, I would always find myself like somehow sad. Something was making me troubled. And it's such a contrast to being here at this age and feeling that sort of sadness and be like, oh, well, I don't know what that is. Let's turn my Reiki on. Let's discern. And when I did that, it was actually something so beautiful because like some ancestors wanted to come in. They wanted to like reach out and connect. And if I didn't have that discernment, I might have spent my day just being sad and not knowing why I was sad. And it wasn't that. It was, I had a tool. I was able to use it. I was able to get the message. I was able to appreciate it and then let that go.
Yes, because there's a sadness of missing people around this time. There's a sadness of, you know, the joy of living and being around our friends and spending time with each other. But there's also a sadness that, you know, uncles are gone, cousins, grandparents, and just the remembrance of people that we know, never mind the ancestors that we don't know, that are trying to maneuver us and send us messages and dreams and maneuver us in directions that we would normally not take if we didn't tune in. So maybe tonight, everybody sit with, you know, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, a great-grandfather, you know, one that brought you joy, one that, or maybe there's someone that you've never met, but you've seen a picture of them. And even in a photograph, even in, you know, like in your culture, people have seen photos of, say, Neem Karoli Baba, right, of Krishna Das and Ram Das's guru, and being like, oh my God, they get a transmission just from the photograph and they start to follow that person. You know, it's doesn't mean that, you know, that person has to be like alive, or, you know, they have to, you have to even know there's something in that photograph that's getting transmitted to you. So even your grandparents, like I have a picture of my dad's grandfather with his Clydesdale horse, you know, that sits beside my computer, that's always transmitting, that's always kind of, good job. Look at you. Look at you. that energy of their mind blown by where we've all come, you know, with our, I mean, like with technology and all of that, like how we've benefited from indoor heating, you know, running clean water, you know, indoor plumbing and toilets. So all of that, because it's only been 100 years. Like I was, you know, having this discussion today with someone, I was like, literacy is really 100 years. People's literacy. It's, you know, and not across the board, you know, because there's places even now that are, and the control of people through being illiterate was much easier. But also those people also had wits about them, and they had a lot of common sense that sometimes I think people lack. Of being able to just, yeah, no, that's manufactured, or that's, you know, trying to suck me in. So I think the discernment of using common sense and also using that knowing is good to navigate this 2023, because we're whispering. Yeah. It's like earlier there was like a transformer exploded like 200 feet from me. Then there was a gunshot half a mile away. And you were just like, wow. And it's raining in LA. That's a lot going on. Mm-hmm. And you're flooding in San Francisco. If you weren't in the islands, there's
there's people having mudslides. It's getting bad. Yeah.
That's scary. The mudslides are scary, because that's remember Montecito. That was, we were all asleep. You know, that's you know, it hasn't really stopped all day here. So let's send energy to that, because it is definitely, you know, the flooding, the rain today, it's kind of very cleansing, that washes away, but it's also kind of like our consciousnesses are also flooded with information and flooded with, look over here, listen to me over here. So it's really kind of discerning. Like I've discerned all day, just looking at things that I've followed and just went, unfollow, because I want to clean my timeline. I want to clean, you know, what's popping up on my notifications. Because even all the feel good sound bites can even be distracting. It's like how many more little, oh, that's a great scene. Oh my God, that's amazing. That's great. But that can even be bombarding that you shut down. So yeah, discern your own environment. And this is an environment. This is a ecosystem. That you have to decide your own ecosystem. And knowing how it works, that you can snooze things, turn off posts, turn on stories. Where do you want to get messages from? It's the same thing out there spiritually. When you get, you know, messages, animal medicine, you know, messages that I do, you know, word from the street every few days, where I'll get a message, you know, from some poster or some graffiti artist or something that I see. But it just sends a boom to me in the moment, and I post it, let it go, move on. And usually I get many messages from people that say, wow, I saw that, and that was something for me, you know, that, you know. So I just feel as if I'm kind of like, you know, a vessel or the message service. It jumped out at me, and sometimes it's not for me. Sometimes it's for some people in the community. But you just, you know, you put it out there as, you know, and I just do it as a nice picture, as something fun. It takes me like a second, but I know it's something significant.
Yeah, there's sometimes you post something, and I wonder, she's in my house right now. She's seeing this.
Well, yes, because I'm also tuning into a community that I have, you know, like I haven't made it because it kind of formed organically like a child, you know, like a cell that it just built organically around me. So I'm kind of like tuned into this organism that is pause and joy of the people that I have attuned, the people that I've met from Heal, the people that I've met from on here, you know, and I kind of know the frequency. It is a very deliberate frequency, and it's, you know, some people have said to me, "Well, party's no nonsense." You know, it's like even that statement tells me it's like, oh, because were you looking for nonsense? Then go to Santa Monica or Venice. It might be nonsense there. I don't know. Maybe up in Ohio's nonsense. I don't even know what that means. But nonsense to me is like nonsensical. There's an aspect of nonsensicalness. It's just, you know, it just is what it is.
Oh,
So thank
my
you
pleasure.
so much,
Thank
Bonnie.
you.
So lovely to see you.
I don't know how to go away.
She's like, I want to stay here. Love to the kids.